Shri Gurubhyo Namaha children. I welcome you all to our online learning initiative Ekalaiva. In our last video, we started with the structure of our respiratory system and we completed up to the structure of trachea. And today we are going to see about the structure of our lungs. Okay, so the location of our lungs, when you see, it is actually trachea itself, it is located in our thoracic cavity only, and our lungs also, it is located in our thoracic cavity and it is well protected. Okay, very delicate organ is our lungs, so it is well protected with the help of this box. Okay, so when you see this, okay, this is the dorsal portion, the front portion, it is having the bone called, this bone we used to call it as sternum. Okay, so dorsal, okay, it is having sternum and lateral sides. Okay, the sides, it is protected by our rib bones, and on our ventral side, okay, exactly at the back of the sternum, there will be our vertebral column. Okay, and okay, this one, okay, the what is it, the ground of this thoracic cavity is having a muscular sheath like structure which we are calling it as diaphragm. So this is how in thoracic cavity, with the help of this diaphragm and our skeletal bones, okay, it is this these lungs, okay, actually we have pair of lungs and our lungs are well protected with the help of these structures in our thoracic cavity. So I told you diaphragm is a muscular sheath, okay, and this muscular sheath, see here, this is the inferior view of this muscular sheath which is providing the place for the entry of vena cava, and this is for our food pipe, that is esophagus, and this is the place for the entry of aorta, that is our main artery. Okay, so this is how this diaphragm, okay, structurally it is present and functionally it is supporting, it is actually separating our thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity, and even this diaphragm, it is having its important role in the process of breathing also. Okay, we'll see it in our next part. So this is about the location of our lungs. This is how our lungs are well protected in our thoracic cavity. Okay, the next one, okay, before going into the structure of lungs, okay, you know all our internal organs, they are having their outer covering. Okay, in the same manner our lungs also, it is protected by outer covering, that is a double layered membrane. Okay, the outer membrane of our lung, we used to call it as pleura. Okay, we are calling it as a pleural membrane. Okay, we are calling it as our pleural membrane, and this pleura, it is of two layers, it is consists of two layers, that is a parietal layer and the visceral layer. Okay, so what is this parietal layer? Outer parietal layer and inner visceral layer. So parietal layer is the outer layer which is very close to the lines of thoracic walls and which is covering the diaphragm. Okay, so which is in a close proximity with our body wall, okay, that thoracic wall, that layer, that outer layer, we will call it as parietal layer. Then inner layer, which is in close proximity with our lungs. Okay, see, this outer layer is our parietal pleura, and the inner layer, this yellow color line, which is very close to our lungs, okay, that is called as visceral pleura. Okay, and these two layers, parietal layer and visceral layer, in between they have some, can you see this blue color area? In between it is having the cavity, and that cavity we used to call it as pleural cavity. Okay, we used to call it as pleural cavity, and this pleural cavity will be having a fluid called pleural fluid. Okay, so what is the importance of this fluid when you see? Okay, so starting from the first breath till the last breath, okay, continuously there should be an expansion and contraction of this lungs. Okay, and these two layers, they have to move on each another. Okay, and the presence of this pleural fluid in this pleural cavity, avoids friction between these two layers, okay, as they are in a continuous movement, that is contraction and relaxation, okay. So at the time of contraction and relaxation, due to the presence of this pleural fluid, it avoids the friction between these two layers, so there is no damage to this pleural membrane, okay. So this is about the pleura. The first protection is by our skeletal system, that is our vertebral bone, sternum, that rib bones, all those things, and inner to that skeletal system we have this pleura to protect our lungs, okay. Then the next one, okay, this lungs, okay, they are having an important space in between. We have pair of lungs, okay, in between the concavity between these two pair of lungs, that is the space between pleural sac of two lungs. The space between pleural sacs of two sides, two lungs, there is a space. I will show you the other picture. That space we used to call it as mediastinum, okay. So this mediastinum, it is separated into two parts, that is superior mediastinum and the inferior mediastinum, okay, superior one and this part, okay, actually it consists of all these three parts. No need to worry about that, okay. This all things together we will call it as inferior mediastinum, okay. So this mediastinum, okay, the superior one is present between the rib and sternal angles, first rib, the first pair of rib and the sternum, this location we used to call it as superior mediastinum, and the inferior one, it is between the sternal angle and the diaphragm, okay. And what is the importance of this mediastinum? When you see, this mediastinum is providing place for the main organ in our body, that is heart, okay. Heart is located in between this pair of lungs, that is in the space called as mediastinum. In addition to that, it is also having space for our food pipe, okay, and other blood vessels and all, okay. The main thing is mediastinum contains okay, our heart, it is providing place for our heart, okay. Now the structure of our lungs, okay. So this parts of our lungs, when you see, okay, it consists of a narrow apex, apex in the sense tip, okay. So it is having a narrow apex, this is actually that narrow apex of our lungs, okay. Then it is having a broad concave base, a broad concave base will be there, which is closed by our diaphragm, okay. Then a convex costal surface next to the ribs, this surface is called costal surface, okay, the sides of our lungs, okay. Then a concave median surface, median surface is nothing but this area is called median surface, and in this median surface only there will be a cardiac notch, okay, the mediastinum which is having a cardiac notch at this place to have our heart, okay. So these are the four sides of our lungs, a narrow apex, a broad concave base, a costal region and the median surface, okay. So this is about the four parts, sides of our lungs, okay. Next, so this is actual structure, okay, how all other organs are located along with our lungs, okay. See, you can see pair of lungs and this space is called our mediastinum, and here when you see, okay, this is our right lung and this is our left lung, yes, okay, this is right lung and this is left lung is, okay, somewhat smaller than our right lung, okay, and here it will be having some concavity, this place we used to call it as cardiac notch, okay. We used to call this place as cardiac notch, okay, where our heart is located, okay. So this is about the okay, that is the presence of lungs along with other organs. Now when you see close to your lungs, okay, this I told you already, the left lung is somewhat smaller than our right lung, and when structurally when you see a right lung, it is composed of three lobes, okay, right lung composed of 3 lobes. Okay, how these lobes are formed? When you see, there will be some grooves in the structure of our lungs. Those grooves, okay, we will call it as fissures. Okay, with the help of these fissures, the fissures will be making that whole lung into 3 lobes, 3 different parts. Okay, so right lung consists of 3 lobes and the left lung consists of 2 lobes. Okay, and these 3 lobes, it is because of, see here, this is superior lobe. Okay, can you see this? This a big lobe. Okay, this is superior lobe. Okay, and then we have this part. Okay, this part is our middle lobe and this is called our inferior lobe. 3 lobes of our right lung. Okay, superior lobe, middle lobe and inferior lobe, and these lobes are separated with the help of the structures called, okay, grooves will be there, and these grooves are called fissures, and it is due to the presence of 2 fissures. This one is a horizontal fissure and this fissure is of a oblique fissure, slanting fissure. Okay, so this oblique fissure and the horizontal fissure and the oblique fissures are responsible for the presence of 3 lobes in our right lung. Okay, then when you see our left lung is having only 2 lobes and 1 fissure. Okay, a big upper lobe. Okay, this is our superior lobe, and this part, this is the inferior lobe, and these lobes are separated by a oblique fissure. Okay, so this is our the lungs. Okay, both left lung and right lung, it consists of all these lobes. Okay, with the help of these fissures. Okay, so this is externally, this is okay, and internally when you go, what is the structure of our lungs? When you see, already we have seen about our trachea. I told you, on entering a thoracic cavity, trachea get divided into 2 parts to make our primary bronchi. Okay, to make our primary bronchi. So this structure actually it is primary bronchi, and this primary bronchi, it gains entry into our lungs. On entering our lungs, you can see this. Okay, it is dividing into secondary bronchi. That is a further division of bronchi. We used to call it as bronchioles. Okay, or in your lower class you have learnt like that only. So see here, this is primary bronchi and this is secondary bronchi. Okay, and this secondary bronchi is having a further branching, which we are calling it as a tertiary bronchi, and it is having its further division, and all these further divisions are called bronchioles. All these divisions are called bronchioles. So trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi ends with bronchioles, and at the end of these bronchioles, when you see, there will be a cluster of sac-like structures, like this, and these sac-like structure we used to call it as alveolar sac. Okay, we used to call this structure as alveolar sac. Exactly, it is similar to the balloon. Okay, so when you inflate the balloon, how it is filled with air. In the same manner, when we inhale our air, okay, these alveolar sacs are filled with air and they get expanded. And the other added advantage of our alveolar sac, millions and millions of alveoli is there in a single lung. Okay, so when you see the added advantage of our alveoli is enriched with blood supply. Okay, for being a very good respiratory organ, that organ should possess some quality. The first one is, it should be very thin. Okay, it should be the first property, it should be very thin, and the second property, it should have more surface area. And the third quality is it should be enriched with blood supply. And all these three properties are there with our alveoli. It is a very thin membrane, it is enriched with blood supply, and millions of alveoli, alveolar sacs are there in our lungs, so increased surface area is available for the gaseous exchange. Okay, so and this blood flow, okay, you can see this is enlarged alveolar sac which is okay surrounded by both pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. Okay, this is how the gaseous exchange is taking place between this blood vessel and this alveolar sac. The alveolar sac is filled with air. Okay, so between this air which is rich in oxygen and here this is deoxygenated blood with this which is rich in carbon dioxide. So there will be okay diffusion of air from oxygen, that is from the alveolar sac to the blood, and from blood carbon dioxide released into the alveolar sac which we will exhale it out so that the deoxygenated blood becomes oxygenated. Okay, we will see it in the next processes of respiration about this gaseous exchange and all. So to do this important function, our respiratory system, okay, it is having all these organs in its place to do this function properly. Thank you, children.